Hi, this is Abid. Today I'm just going to talk about the most important year of Pablo Picasso's life, and this year is considered to be the most important year, and this year basically makes Pablo Picasso. Well, if we have a look into the life journey of Pablo Picasso, then we find that it was 1901 when Pablo Picasso he journeys into Paris and he started living there, and for the very first time in 1901, it was most certainly in spring, he went for the very first exhibition in Paris. And let me tell you, at that period of time, Pablo Picasso, he was just a 19 years kid. So after going to Paris, he started painting. Within a short couple of days, he painted more than 60 paintings. And it is said that he used to paint more than 3 canvases each and every day. So you can easily understand that he was very much prolific and he was very much focused with his work. So within this short couple of days, he was able to make sure an exhibition in a very prestigious gallery of Paris at that period of time with his 60 works that he just recently finished. And with this very first exhibition in Paris, with these great works that Pablo Picasso did within a short couple of days, he was very much able to get the focus and the limelight all over the Western world or all over the Western countries. So this exhibition was nothing but Pablo Picasso's paving the way towards the great and the most famous artists of that period of time. And almost all the art critics and all the great artists of that period of time, they started praising and appreciating the great works of Pablo Picasso because his works are quite and absolutely unparalleled with the previous works of the great masters. Almost all the great art critics started appreciating him because he was not a slave of imitating the modern contemporary great artists of that period of time. If you have a look into the life of Pablo Picasso, you'll find that he was just growing up with the Impressionism movement, and he also encountered when he was in early teen, he also experienced the post-impressionism movement where Paul Cézanne and the great Vincent van Gogh, they were the charioteer of that movement. And before that, he also encountered a little bit of impressionism, which was run by the great Claude Monet. So it was very much bold for a 19 years old unknown kid to come up and to question and to bring something and to deconstruct the way the great movements were taking place when you are just growing up. So he questioned those way of painting arts, and he also started by creating new genre of art and paintings. Yes, it is true that he was not a slavish imitator, but he did pick up some of the forms of arts from that period of time, and also blended with his own caliber and brought to us and presented to the world something which is nobody has ever encountered before. And this is how he became unparalleled and unmatchable compared to other modern artists of that period of time. Let me give you an example. The very first big exhibition that took place in France in spring, there Pablo Picasso, he exhibited a very important and very famous painting, which is presenting us a dove dancer. Yes, it is true that you will find there are so many artists of that period of time, even before they painted so many dancers into their canvas, but the difference or the unmatchable stuff with Pablo Picasso is that Pablo Picasso, he painted a dove dancer that nobody without any doubt ever painted. Since it is not very much usual that a dove dancer can be a subject or can get a space into the canvas of a great artist, because everybody is just trying to make something which is closer to the perfection, or which is fulfilling the thought process or the demand of the great minds. Because if I want to paint, I just want to paint something which is perfect. So everybody is taking someone who is very good in health, who is very much attractive as a dancer. But Pablo Picasso, he rather than picking up a classical dancer, a classically beautiful dancer, rather than he started picking up a circus dancer who is just showing circus into the streets. Like we all know that a street dancer does not have that much attractiveness, but Pablo Picasso thought that yes, it is very much important for us to portray something which is much more real rather than trying to sketch something which is very much unreal and closer to the perfection. And you will also find that in front of the feet of that dove dancer there is a fire, and this firework has been painted by Pablo Picasso in such a way that will remind you the game of light, like Vincent van Gogh. So he was just showing that this is how Pablo Picasso is turning or taking a stand with a great modern artist like Sir Vincent van Gogh. Within a short couple of months, Pablo Picasso went for his second exhibition, and the subject of his second exhibition was melancholic art exploration. This melancholic art exhibition was not very much well received like his first exhibition in Paris just a couple of months before. The reason is nobody wants to see the people in melancholic mood. So the first exhibition, which is very much youthful, which is very much joyful, so everybody was excited, and there was beautiful paintings with different beautiful colors that Pablo Picasso just reinvented in the history of world. So it was kind of shock for the great art critics or the fans of Pablo Picasso, and everybody thought that it is not the right way that Pablo Picasso is walking through. But yes, it is true now. Now everybody knows, everybody understands that blue period of Pablo Picasso's life to go for painting melancholic artistic canvases was a great move for Pablo Picasso to be one of the greatest art masters of the world. Here Pablo Picasso painted paintings like dissolute look of a drinker and different types of people who are in melancholic mood. To be very true, Pablo Picasso, he was just trying to portray a very important message of life rather than what we want to see in the canvases. For example, he was just trying to say that it is very important that we must be joyful into the life journey of our life, as well as it is also a must and inevitable that we also encounter sorrows, we also encounter sufferings. We can't throw out the sorrows from our life, and we always just be joyful. So since he already exhibited the joyous mood of our life in his the very first exhibition, now it turns the time for our melancholic mood or our sufferings to be portrayed into the canvases, which never been done before by any artist in this way. So in this very exhibition, which was not very much well received by people, Pablo Picasso, he used less color. So now if you use less color in the canvas, then the temperature drops. Now once the temperature drops, it gives you a look that your mood is being changed. So you are just your face is being portrayed as a melancholic face. And he also used a lot of blue color, since blue is considered to be a part of our sorrow. So blue sometimes represents the color of our sorrow and melancholic mood. And you will find a very famous and very much provocative canvas that Pablo Picasso exhibited in that less received exhibition was a child, a very small child with a dove. Now here Pablo Picasso, he was just trying to portray that the fragility of childhood, of innocence. And of course, without any doubt, he was just trying to tell us that with the modern period, we are also creating so many melancholic faces. So yes, we are developing in so many ways, but it is true that we are missing something that is making us much more melancholic. In that exhibition, you will find another important story of Pablo Picasso's life. Pablo Picasso, he had a very close friend, and the person, he was poet and he was a rising star. His name was Casagemas. Now, a couple of months back, Casagemas, he shot himself in front of his girlfriend in a cafe at Paris. So it made Pablo Picasso very much shocked at that time. That's why you will find there is a series of paintings in that very exhibition where Pablo Picasso, he was just paying a tribute to his friend Casagemas. and almost all the pictures of Casagamas being painted by Pablo Picasso was very much new to the world of art, and it was nothing but a changing web that Pablo Picasso created. So these things, basically these two exhibitions, utterly changed the way of Western arts are being studied and Western arts are being directed for centuries after centuries. You will find a very provocative painting where you will find that Casagama, when he was died and he was taken near to the grave, and family and friends, they were mourning. It is his shroud. But you will also find in the same painting there is another stage, and there is something which is going on into the heaven. And here you will see that Casagama's body is here, but his soul with a stallion, it was just going up into the sky. And you will also find there is another painting of Casagama, and he was in his coffin, and it is very much imaginary when you just think of someone who is dead and he is in his coffin. It is something like that, but it is very much serene. You will also find in this second exhibition one of the most famous and one of the most successful early portraits ever made by anyone in the history of world was by Picasso. So here you will find one of the boldest self-portraits ever made by anyone, where Pablo Picasso has written down "Your Picasso, I Picasso." So it is very much famous. Whoever knows about Pablo Picasso, this portrait, you will find there is black background and there is Picasso. It is very much prominent, and the black background tells us that Picasso, he is just journey along, and he is just journey, and he is just creating something which is new. So it is considered to be one of the most successful self-portraits of all time. An ironic fact is that Pablo Picasso couldn't sell many of his paintings at that time. So it took more than 10 years for the world to understand or to justify fully Pablo Picasso as a great artist, to the mass people. Though it is well understood today that this 1901, these two very exhibitions which represented joy and sorrow, life and death, is considered to be the most important year of Pablo Picasso's life, and of course one of the most important years in the history of art. And of course Pablo Picasso was someone who changed the meaning of Western art, and he gave a new meaning. So 1901 is considered to be the most important year of Pablo Picasso's life that changed Pablo into Picasso. Thank you very much.